Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Amazonis Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for April 2021. This deck has always been quite a fun deck for me with all the different playstyles that Amazonis can do, and it's actually been quite a while since we've gotten support for the Amazonis deck, but there have been plenty of reprints with the Legendary Duelist Season 1 to make this quite an easy deck to build that focuses on just swarming the field with a bunch of different Amazonis monsters and then making use of the different monsters, spells, and traps we have for the Amazonis deck. That's also why I wanted to focus on a pure Amazonis deck with no other support aside from the actual Amazonis cards we have. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Amazonis monsters for our playsets that we run in the deck, our boss monster is Amazonis Queen. It's a level 6 monster with 2400 attack with a very simple effect that says Amazonis monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. So just having this card in the field protects all of your Amazonis monsters from being destroyed by battle, and then just being able to make full use of some of our different trap cards that we run in the deck, including Amazonis Onslaught, which will specify every time an Amazonis monster battles an opponent's monster, you banish that monster after damage calculations. So very, very strong just to get rid of a bunch of different monsters your opponent may have. You'll still take battle damage unless you're using some other specific Amazonis monsters like Swordswoman, which can be very, very scary with this card. But the initial setup for your Amazonis Queen is just to easily get this card out of the field, which can easily be done with our next setup card, which is Amazonis Princess. This card's name becomes Amazonis Queen while on the field or in the graveyard. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add one Amazonis spell or trap from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Amazonis Princess once per turn, and when this card declares an attack, you can send one other card from your hand or field to the graveyard to special summon one Amazonis from your deck in defense position, except for Amazonis Princess. So attacking with Princess means that if you have the card to send, you can just set up Queen that much easier on the field, just giving you another monster just like that in defense position. Otherwise, you could just summon another Princess onto the field and then just continue the attacking as long as you have cards to send for an infinite amount of attacks against your opponent. But Princess, I would say, is one of your best go-to setup cards in the deck, so you definitely want to run 3 of this card, being a searcher and then just more special summoning power with this card altogether. For more easy special summoning, including from the graveyard, I also run 3 Amazonis Baby Tiger. This card's name becomes Amazonis Tiger while on the field or in the graveyard. So Princess and Baby Tiger will both be, very important for getting our fusion plays to go into Amazonis Empress and Amazonis Pet Liger, both needing Amazonis Queen and Amazonis Tiger, respectively, for all of those fusion plays. But with this card, while it's in your hand or graveyard, you can special summon this card when an Amazonis monster is normal or special summon. And you can only use this effect of Amazonis Baby Tiger once per turn, and it gains 100 attack for each Amazonis card in your graveyard. So you do run a pretty good amount of different Amazonis cards altogether. So you can boost this cards up, quite well with its attack. But it's mostly here just to provide an extra resource on the field if you want to go for extra deck plays, like I said, into Liger or into any of your Link monsters you run. Having 3 Baby Tiger means if you open it up in your hand, you have the special summon option there, just in case your opponent DD Crows it in the graveyard, getting rid of that graveyard resource. Or, like I said, if you just want to see this card more often, opening up in your hand, then using it for the play, and then just setting it up in the graveyard means it can that much easier be special summoned back onto the field to use later on. And continuing the 3 ofs that I run in the deck, I also run 3 Amazonis Swordswoman. Your opponent takes any battle damage you would have taken from battles involving this card. So with the protection that Amazonis Queen provides on the field, you can attack into your opponent's monsters with Amazonis Swordswoman, and this card will not be destroyed by battle, being protected by Amazonis Queen. And then you can just, have this card take any of the damage that you would have. So the stronger monster your opponent has on the field, the better, because then your opponent will just be taking all of this damage, and you won't be losing any of your monsters as long as you have the Amazonis Queen set up ready to go on the field. This card can also just be special summoned from Amazonis Princess. It'll be in defense position, so you'll have to wait a turn to switch to attack and attack that way. But I run 3 of it just because then we can open up multiples of this card on the field as well, and then just hit our opponent with all of these different attacks, and then they're taking all the damage we would have taken. And then for the last of the 3 ofs that I run in the deck, I also run 3 Amazonis Spy. You can reveal one other Amazonis monster in your hand to special summon this card from your hand. You can only use this effect of Amazonis Spy once per turn. And when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can target one Amazonis monster in your graveyard, except for Spy, and return it to the hand, or shuffle it into the deck. So recycle power. Being able to add back Amazonis Princess to our hand is a big plus for sure, because we have plenty of different Amazonis spell or traps in our deck that we can make use of for that search power. And just being a resource, we don't have have to send a card, we just have to reveal an Amazoness monster in our hand with Spy to special summon it out into the field. So just being an easy resource to rely on the field to go for fusion plays, or just, like I said, link monster plays, and then not even take up our normal summon. This can be our first special summon on the field, and then just normal summon out our second Amazoness monster. For some of the lower numbers that I run in the deck, I also run 2 Amazoness Tiger. You can only control 1 Amazoness Tiger. This card gains 400 attack for each Amazoness monster you control, and your opponent cannot attack any face-up Amazoness except for this one. So while Baby Tiger provides some of the additional support with its special summon, you can rely on Amazoness Tiger just for the power-up and protection of some of your other Amazoness if you don't have the Amazoness Queen to rely on to go into. But remember, you can only have 1 Amazoness Tiger on the field, and since Baby Tiger counts as Amazoness Tiger while on the field, you can't summon this Tiger. So I'm also running lower copies because you do want to see Baby Tiger more than Amazoness Tiger. So having this option available to you is just good for that power boost play for each Amazoness you control. So if you do have the full field, which is very easy to set up in this deck for each Amazoness monster, including itself, you can hit a pretty good number for Amazoness Tiger to attack into. And even if you don't use this card for just its normal summon, it can just be from hand the fusion requirement for Amazoness Liger, for the fact that you need Amazoness Tiger, and this card can count as that name from your hand also. And I also run 2 Amazoness Scouts with just how easy it is to summon Amazoness onto the field using this deck. During either player's turn, you can tribute this card. If you do, during this turn, face-up Amazoness monsters you control cannot be targeted by effects of monsters and cannot be destroyed by the effects of spell, traps, or monster effects. So with this card, if you special summon it onto the field with many of our different Amazoness cards, you can then easily just during the battle phase tribute this card and then protect any of your other Amazoness monsters that you're attacking with against your opponent's plays. If you have your queen set up on the field, you don't have to worry about the battle plays. You can go through with your Amazoness Princess plays when it attacks into your opponent, and then just be able to go for the protection that this card provides. I only run 2 of it though. It doesn't really provide much else unless you already have your initial Amazoness set up on the field, and it's just that much more searchable, being a monster that can be summoned out through Princess that much easier. And then lastly, for the Amazoness One-Ofs, I run 1 Amazoness Paladin and 1 Amazoness Sage. With Paladin, it's just a 100 attack point gain for each Amazoness you control. Another power boost card, especially if you're going up against some tricky cards of your opponents that you just need to hit over. This can be the power card you need for it, especially if your special summons are limited. And with Amazoness Sage, if this card attacks, select 1 spell or trap card your opponent controls and destroy it at the end of damage step. So once again, Amazoness Queen is very vital for this play to go successfully, because if your Amazoness Sage attacks into a monster that's higher, it has to be on the field to resolve after damage step before you can get the destruction play. So protecting it with Amazoness Queen is definitely needed, but it's in here mostly for the specific spell or trap destructions you need against your opponent. It's much easier to just rely on the damage burn that cards like Amazoness Swordswoman can do against your opponent. So just the one-ofs, and once again, both these cards can be summoned with Princess. It's really all you need for those cards. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 Amazoness Call, a quick play spell with a very interesting card text. You take 1 Amazoness card from your deck, except for Amazoness Call, and you either place it basically to your hand or send it to the graveyard. And during your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 Amazoness monster you control this turn. That monster can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. Also, other monsters you control cannot attack, and you can only activate 1 Amazoness Call per turn. So the ideal play is having your Amazoness Queen on the field and having your Amazoness Swordswoman. If your opponent has a lot of monsters, you can then use the Amazoness Call play to banish this card from your graveyard and then attack each monster your opponent has with Amazoness Swordswoman. So the more, higher attack points those monsters have, the more damage your opponent will take, since they have to take each Amazoness Swordswoman attack. And having our trap, which is probably one of the best cards in the deck, Amazoness Onslaught, for that card to then banish each one of those monsters after they take the damage. They won't be destroyed initially with Swordswoman, but they'll be banished with the trap card, taking away resources, because it's definitely a lot harder to make use of cards when you banish them instead of destroy them. For the field spells, I also run 2 Amazoness Village and 1 Fusion Recycling Plant. This is for the fusion plays, while Amazoness Village is more for the setup power for your Amazoness. All Amazoness monsters gain 200 attack once per turn. When an Amazoness monster is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Amazoness monster from your deck with a level less than or equal to that monster. So with this card, it's it's more for the card effect, because most of the time you should have Amazoness Queen on the field. And you have lowering levels for each Amazoness to go down into. So then if you have Amazoness Queen, you can then go into Swordswoman. With Swordswoman, you can then go into Princess, getting your search off of this card since it was special summon. And then from there, having the option to either go into Amazoness Scouts or even Baby Tiger. So you have all the different level adjustments with your field spell to make full use of, and the additional attack gain can definitely come in handy for cards like Amazoness Queen. Being at 2600 attack, definitely better than 2400 for the amount of cards you can get over. And Fusion Recycling Plant is just more easy search power to go for polymerization. You can also set up cards like Baby Tiger in the graveyard, then just easily special summon it back onto the field. And for some of the Oneoffs in the deck, I run the one Amazoness Heirloom. It's another search spell for Amazoness Princess. You can even just equip it onto Princess and protect it with this card, and use it more for the destruction play, since Queen will protect your cards from being destroyed by battle anyway. So with this one, it's a once per turn cannot be destroyed by battle, but still good just to have as a search option if you need to send a card with Princess as a resource. I also run the one Terraforming for searching out the different field spells we run, and the one Foolish Burial to send Baby Tiger to the graveyard for easy special summon once again, and the one Reinforcements to the army, the good majority of the Amazoness monsters being warrior. So just having a Amazoness Princess search is what I almost go for this card all the time, just being that resource you want to open up within your hand as quickly as possible. And for some of the other fusion plays to finish off the spells, I run the 2 Polymerization and the 2 Super Polymerization. Now, we spoke before of the fact that it's just that much easier to get Amazoness monsters on the field. So having Super Polymerization as a resource means that we can attack with all those monsters and then use Super Polymerization to go into the different fusion monsters we run in the deck for Amazoness, and then just be able to attack with those cards during the battle phase as well. Polymerization is great. We do run a good number of the different fusions, so being able to have the Fusion Recycling Plant search and then also rely on that card for the play is why I like to run both options. We have plenty to make use of all the different fusion spells and just the easy access to them, because the fusions do play a big power play altogether for the deck as a whole. And that is it for the spells. We'll now move on to the traps. I spoke of it before, but one of the best traps in the deck and one of the best cards in the deck overall is Amazoness Onslaught. Once per turn, during the battle phase, you can special summon one Amazoness monster from your hand, and if you do, it gains 500 attack until the end of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. After damage calculation, if your Amazoness monster battled an opponent's monster while this card is already face up on your spell and trap card zone, you can banish that opponent's monster. If this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target one Amazoness monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So this card has plenty of card effects to make full use. Just being able to special summon cards like Amazoness Queen onto the field, and then just have the initial effect of Amazoness Queen for your opponent not being able to have, the option to destroy your cards by battle, and then having Queen being able to attack into your opponent's monsters and banish anything it battles because of Onslaught. And then if your opponent destroys Onslaught, you just get another special summon from the graveyard into the field. So you keep the resources going with this card. It's something you always want to have set up on the field ready to activate against your opponent, and it's just that much easier to search because of cards like Amazoness Princess. But it's most of the time the card I do search into, if not this, or going into Amazoness Call for more and more spell search options. And then lastly, to finish off the traps and the main deck, I run 2 Amazoness Willpower. You select one Amazoness monster in your graveyard and special summon it in attack position. It cannot change its battle position. It must attack if able. When this card is removed from the field, destroy that monster. So another search power. It's basically a searchable Call the Haunted for the deck. And even if you special summon cards, which most of the time with this card, my target is Amazoness Swordswoman. If it has to attack, that's fine, as long as it won't be destroyed by battle. If we have Queen on the field, you can attack into our opponent's monsters regardless of what it attacks into, as long as you can either destroy that monster, or if you have your Onslaught on the field, banish it, and your opponent will still take any damage if any of their monsters' attack is higher. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck for the fusion monsters. I run 2 Amazoness Empress. You need Queen and 1 Amazoness monster to fusion summon this card. Other Amazoness cards you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, so a step up from Amazoness Queen when you get this card out. If your Amazoness monster attacks a defense monster, inflict piercing battle damage, and if this card is fusion summoned, destroyed by battle, or leaves the field because of a card effect, you can special summon 1 Amazoness Queen from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So resources and making use of our main deck boss monster monsters. So Amazoness Empress makes full use of the powers that Amazoness Queen has. Also providing piercing damage is another plus for sure. And then just giving you the option if your opponent does get over this card, giving you your boss monster back on the field to make use of. I also run 2 Amazoness Pet Liger. You need Amazoness Tiger and 1 Amazoness Monster. Once per turn, if this card attacks during damage calculation, you can make this card gain 500 attack during damage calculation only. If your Amazoness Monster attacked an opponent's monster after damage calculation, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls and it loses 800 attack. And monsters you control cannot attack Amazoness monsters except for this one. So basically carrying all the monster effects with a few additional power ones that Amazoness Tiger provides. It's great for the protection, having a higher attack than Amazoness Tiger. I like to run 2 of it for the option, but most of the time I may even consider a 3rd Empress just for how much better this card runs consistent-wise with the different Amazoness cards, and then just reducing the number of Liger to 1, but it's player preference at that point also. I also run the 1 Mud Dragon just for needing 2 monsters with the same attribute but different types. So we have the Warrior option and also the Beast option, all being Earth attribute. So if need be, I can make this card with our Super Polymerization or Polymerization, then have an overlay option for rank 4s with the other level 4s in the main deck, or even just using my opponent's cards if they have an Earth type monster that's different than one of the attributes I have to take their resources away with Super Polymerization. For the Link monsters, I also run 1 also the Earth Charmer and 1 Mrs. Radiant, both good options for just power plays and taking resources from my opponent. The 1 Predaplant Vert Anaconda for the Polymerization starts, being able to just set up this card and then have the fusion target ready to go. Barricade Board Blocker to recycle my field spell from the graveyard. Also 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, and 1 Nightmare Unicorn to finish off the Link monsters in the extra deck. And for the Xyz monsters, 1 Leviair, the Sea Dragon, 1 Tornado Dragon, and the 1 Abyss Dweller. I don't go into the Xyz monsters often. I just like to have this additional resource available to me, but most of the time I either go into the fusions or the Link monsters. And then as for the go-to plays in the deck, like I said, one of my favorites is just Amazoness Princess. You can rely on this card as a 1-card go-to play setup. If you summon your Amazoness Princess, you can then gain the additional search for this card. If you want to go for the special summon play and you need that resource, you can add the heirloom to your hand. So when you attack with Princess, you can discard the heirloom from your hand to special summon another Amazoness onto the field. Most of the time, your search is going to want to be your Amazoness Queen. And then also having this play ready to go, you can then attack with Princess, getting that initial search for your monster, and then having the Super Polymerization in your hand, you can go for the fusion of these 2 cards ready on the field to go then go into your Amazoness Empress on the field, and then having the more protection that Queen provide with this card even more, and also piercing battle damage against your opponent with this additional monster to rely on. If you have the Amazoness Princess in your hand, along with, let's say, the Baby Tiger play, it just goes even more for the special summon resources on the field, being able to then go for Amazoness Princess, and then special summon Baby Tiger onto the field, and then still gaining the search of Princess. If you're going to go for a more defensive play, let's say this is your first turn, you can then search out the Amazoness Onslaught, and then set this card on the field. So having these 2 monsters ready to go, most of the time you want to summon the Baby Tiger in defense mode, setting this on the field as well, and then if your opponent attacks into your cards, you can activate the Amazoness Onslaught, then protecting the fact that your Princess will be destroyed by battle, but still banishing one of your opponent's monsters, and then just having the chance next turn resource, depending on what Amazoness you open up, you can go into battle phase and then just use Amazoness Onslaught to summon that resource back onto the field for a non-tribute cost of whatever you had on the field, and being able to then use other resources on the field with this play all together. It's a very, very fun deck, and the easy combos of just being able to swarm so many monsters. You want to make sure that Princess is your main go-to card to rely on for all this setup. Just being able to get out so many different Amazoness monsters using this card, and being able to send any other resource you have for this card to make use of those monster effects is a big part of the deck as a whole. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. I love updating the Amazoness deck. I really do hope maybe one day we'll get some more support for the deck. I could definitely use some different monster play setup for sure. But until then, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira, Twig out.